What were the ones I listed? The first I said was that they legitimize contradictory positions, because when I say legitimize, that doesn't mean that they have to run contradictory positions, but it means that if people run positions that are in contradiction, they would be allowed to under their conception. I've seen people before make that point and then say, well, I can also advocate this plan plank because they're running dispositionality for that very reason. But the whole meaning, the burdens of the affirmatives is important, because I do think the language of the charter sets up a full advocacy position, but I think there's strong evidence to infer it. The rules make a lot of reference to meeting burdens of solvency, which I would say have to carry through to the round in order to win. That is a burden that the affirmative has in a round, is to win solvency as a stock issue at the end of the round. Why not apply it to there? But additionally, the rules set it up so that the negative can take a counter proposal instead of, or that must compete with the status quo or the affirmative plan. So, yeah, I mean that's, yeah, the chart puts you in a position where you have to make a choice. Yeah.
What would you say about using a counterplan in like a hypothesis test paradigm, where you would want to use it as like an indirect proof for why the U.S. shouldn't do it? So it would be like an opportunity cost of sorts.
If you read any of these, make any of these theory type of arguments, that's what they'll say. That's what they'll say on topicality if you put a reverse voter on too. They'll just try and get out. They'll say, hey, just checking, man. But the negative explanation for it is, explanations could be, first of all, it was a test of what the actual mandates of plan were. Some people will claim that they're confused about vague planks of plan and what it actually does. So they ran the counter plan so that they could find their own ground. Essentially, you have to construct your own ground. They'll say, oh, I just didn't understand, but it's your fault because you were vague. Some people might say, it's only my job to advocate something other than the resolution. I'm still doing that. But I mean, really, if you're the affirmative and somebody does that, you're SOL. I mean, a counterplan, it's more or less prima facie. Because it's judged, its capabilities are judged on par with the plan. I mean, that's before the disads are triggered and everything. You see what is fiated, and then you see what links up. So if you're allowing them to have something that is fiated alongside a plan, it's a big deal. Yeah. They can't go throwing weight around that without being accountable for it. And if you want to give them outs, if you want to say, okay, I understand they were just trying to test a hypothesis, but they could have done it in cross-ex. They could have been forward about having a dispositional advocacy instead of a conditional advocacy, because I still want to make sure that they can spend some time on it like I did. I'd give answers like that too. Yeah?
So how do you write a counterplan? What's the structure?
A counterplan? First of all, it should have a text with mandates. It's best if you write it. If you don't write it, it's very fishy. If somebody asks for your counterplan text in cross-ex and you say, well, it's something about, we want to consult Japan. And then, they're basically writing their counterplan in cross-ex. And the judge won't have anything to look at after the round to verify if there's a change in positions. It's really bad. So you want to write your plan text. You want to have those three requirements of non-topicality, mutual exclusivity, or competition by mutual exclusivity and net benefits, and then a form of solvency. And that's how it's laid out. You say, my next counterplan, the U.S. federal government will consult with Japan on lifting of the embargo. Upon resolution of these consultations, the U.S. will enact all relevant mandates to that position. A counterplan is non-topical. It's a consultation with Japan. That means it's constructive engagement with Japan in Cuba, which is not Cuba. If anything, it's extra topical at best. So, yeah. My B is it's competitive. 1, through mutual exclusivity. A consultation can't go on at the same time as insisting on a plan happening. 2, it's ideologically incompatible to consult on something while going through with it anyway. That if anything, that would trigger the disad. And the 3 is a net benefit. I avoid the Japan rearmed disadvantage. Solvency. Counterplan solves all of the case. Consulting with Japan will garnish the best way in which we could lift an embargo without doing it. And then you'd read a card. Always good to have a solvency card instead of a solvency assertion for your counterplan. Otherwise, it just seems like your talk is, it seems like a good idea. So, yeah. If negatives do that against you when you're on the affirmative, you're going to win that your plan garnishes unique advantages, that you advocate thoroughly researched positions, which might also be a position that F plans are locked into. What else? All right, well, I will say a couple of more things. I want to warn you of some dangerous counterplans. One involves multi-agent fiat or utopian fiat. Some people might counterplan, have the world collectively agree to pass the affirmative plan. Have Congress all vote the same way to pass plan. People will do this to get out of disadvantages. It used to be the case that, let's say there's a bipartisanship politics scenario. You say that if new federal policies are implemented, the Democrats will place the blame. A counterplan like that, which says everybody does it in Congress, it artificially avoids that sort of disadvantage, because you say, yeah, well, the Republicans were on board too, so the link story doesn't apply to our counterplan, just your plan. Those are competitive only in virtue of an abuse of fiat. You should hold them to standards like the affirmative plan has. They have a single agent fiat, and that fiat resolves the question of what gets the plan into effect. There's a minimal aspect. Affirmatives would be charged with over-specifying or extra topicality if they did that in plan text. And there's no reason why you wouldn't want to hold them accountable for the same thing. A second type of thing that might be introduced as a counterplan is the real-world counterplan. People might do crazy things like counterplan, have the judge vote for me, or counterplan, I will fund the plan instead of the federal government. There are a whole lot of reasons why that is wrong. First of all, it is an abuse of fiat, I would imagine, because fiat is somehow derived from a policy-making implementation. But additionally, think of how it interrelates with the sorts of issues and arguments that we construct in debate. There's no literature or research that you could ever do on, your opponent's wallet. You can research things that all happened outside of the round beforehand. Hopefully you won't see these things, but they are out there. Before you ever see the counterplan, vote for me.